Hello everyone, welcome back to Physics Talk 4.2, Kinetic Energy Calculations. So just to let you know, this is part of our Chapter 4 book, Section 2. So please take good notes, and let's go. So our learning objective is to use the kinetic energy formula to calculate EK, mass, or the velocity/speed. So either one of those, as long as I give you 2 out of the 3, you should be able to calculate it. So using mathematical and computational thinking is our SEP for this one, and then our CCCs are pattern, scale, proportion, and quantity. All right, so example 1. What is the kinetic energy, EK, of a 2 kilogram object traveling at 10 meters per second and the same object traveling at 20 meters per second? So when looking at this, we know that 2 kilogram is given. That is the mass. We also know that 10 meters per second is given. That is velocity. And then later on, we change that velocity to 20 meters per second. So that's going to be another velocity. So in this case, we just want to calculate the kinetic energy. So to calculate kinetic energy, I need the formula. So EK is defined as 1/2 mv squared, 1/2 mv squared. And you'll notice I used 2 of them here because I have 2 scenarios in here, both with the same mass but just different velocities. So when we plug that in, the mass of 2 goes where the m is. The velocity for the first one is 10, that goes in there. The 20 goes in the one down below. And when we plug that in, we get 1/2 2 times 10 squared. And the bottom one becomes 1/2 2 times 20 squared. And of course, order of operation says take care of the exponent first. So this will become 100. And then 1/2 of 2 is just 1. So that's going to be 1 times 100, which is 100 joules. And remember, the units of energy is going to be joules. And when we plug in for the second one, 20 squared is going to be 400. And again, 1/2 of 2 is going to be 1 again. So that's just going to become 400 joules. So when we compare these two, the question then becomes, by what factor did the kinetic energy increase by doubling the velocity? So when we double the velocity, you'll notice that the energy is not quite doubled, is it? And it turns out when you divide those two numbers, 400 divided by 100 is 4 times greater, which means that it increased by a factor of 4 or quadrupled. So where does that number come from? Well, it's the fact that it's doubled 2 and squared. So 2 squared is 4. So if I triple it, guess by what factor that'll be? Exactly, 9, because 3 squared is 9. If I quadruple it, it'll be 4 squared, which is 16. So keep in mind that the ratio of the energy will depend on the square of the relationships of the velocities. So if it's double, that's going to be by 4 because it's 2 squared. If it's tripled, it's 3 squared, which is 9. And of course, if I do like 5 times greater, it'll be a factor of 25. All right, example 2. So big idea. Doubling an object's speed increases kinetic energy by 4 times. And the idea is because of that square factor in there, that means whatever the situation you're doing, you're just going to square that. So if it's 4 times greater, it's going to be 16 times greater on the kinetic energy. All right, example 2. An object has 4,000 joules of energy and a mass of 20 kilograms. What is the speed of the object? So in this case, we're given the kinetic energy. We are also given the mass. So I'm given both of those. So here I've got the EK and I've also have the M. And my goal is to find the speed, which is the V. So then I just plug in the numbers. And when I plug in those numbers, I get 4,000 equals 1/2 times 20 times V squared. And since I don't know this is going to be my variable I got to solve for. 1/2 of 20 is 10. And then now what do I do for algebra? How do I solve this? That's right. We got to divide both sides by 10. So we divide both sides by 10. This cancels out this side. 4,000 divided by 10 becomes 400. And of course, now with my last step, if something squared equals 400, what do I got to do on both sides? That's right. We got to take the square root. Taking square root of both sides, we get V is going to equal to plus or minus 20. And because this is speed, and we don't worry about direction right now, we're just going to use the positive value of that. Okay, and a lot of times when I ask you for finding the velocity, just give me the positive value for this one. Okay? All right, so that is the end of our examples for today. If you have any questions, come see me in tutoring. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a great week.